I've seen this many times, and this is the best example I have seen because I told you guys I mostly read my news. I just so happened to catch this clip, and they was talking about Democrats in elections. And in this clip, they do bring up one valid point: the fact that, like I mentioned earlier, the abortion issue may help a lot of Democrats because just like Kansas, I'm going to report on this here very soon. Kansas and the ballot initiative voted to keep abortion access. So I have a theory that I repeated many times. The Democrats was underwater so bad, the Republicans doubled down on their extremism because they have a vested interest in keeping the two-party facade up. So, but the biggest sin of this segment is Zerlina Maxwell and her guest downplaying the effects of inflation. So I'm gonna play the first question, and then Zerlina later will say that it's almost a privilege to care about inflation. So there's only like 90 seconds or so. I'm gonna show you guys what is the message that's coming from the liberal class right now. So let's watch this, and I will get your reaction to this, Carlos. 1 second.
In the culture war space on issues like LGBTQ plus rights or even abortion, how that could be a liability for Republicans. But one of the pieces of conventional wisdom I read a lot about is that inflation and the cost of things is a liability for Democrats. I mean, how do you think that balances out? Do you think that bodily autonomy in the minds of a voter who's going into that polling booth, do you think that's more top of mind than the cost of their gas?
You know, I think ultimately that in order to even have to care about inflation, you have to be alive. And if you're a woman right now who has a difficult pregnancy that's threatening your health, you know what? That's going to matter a lot more to you, I think, than inflation. You know, and furthermore, elections aren't about how you start, they're about how you close. And I said months ago, Republicans were peaking way too early. When everyone wrote Democrats off for dead, I'm like, listen, there's a lot of game left to be played here, a lot of field ahead, and Republicans every step of the way seem to be hitting that self-sabotage button. I mean, just in the last week alone, somehow they've managed.
I'm going to let the rest of this play here real quick before I get to the part I really want to highlight. I just want to quickly point out, do you guys notice that, and this is by design, they got a black woman and an Asian man to sit here to tell you guys that things are not as bad as you guys think, that caring about inflation is some sort of privilege. I just want you guys to get that in mind, and that's a tactic that they use. I want to let it continue because, believe it or not, it gets worse.
They should put themselves on the side of China, on the opposite side of veterans, two constituencies that they've really, been in their wheelhouse for years that they've upended, and all the while they continue this extreme war on women. I mean, this is the only political party I can think of that actually uses The Handmaid's Tale as an instruction manual, and it's going to backfire big time in November.
That's a frightening thought. I definitely don't want anybody to pick up that book and use it as a to-do list. That is not a good thought, Kurt. One of the things that you said there that I really think is important is the fact that, inflation, it's almost a privilege to care about inflation as your number one issue. The same is true of gas prices or even the idea that it's the economy stupid. I always found that analysis lacking because...
What? Hold up, I'm gonna play it one more time. You guys hear what she said? This is the reason why I pulled this clip. She said it's almost essential privilege you have to care about inflation. How dare you have this essential privilege on wondering how you're gonna feed your kids? You guys see how they're trying to paint the only struggle as being the culture war, and it's a privilege to care about economic issues. This is incredible. You guys see this? I'll play it one more time, and I'll give you a thanks, Carlos.
One of the things that you said there that I really think is important is the fact that, inflation, it's almost a privilege to care about inflation as your number one issue. The same is true of gas prices or even the idea that it's the economy stupid. I always found that analysis lacking because as a Black person, I don't want to get killed on the way to my job. So I'm glad I have a job. I'm glad I make a living wage. But if I can't be alive, then what does that other stuff matter? I mean, speak to the idea that some of this stuff is existential in the minds of the Democratic base.
before I get to his answers, and before I get to his answer, and hold on, make sure I think you're muted. Make sure you're on mute, Carlos.
Oh
But,
no, I don't want to interrupt you. I'm just saying,
okay.
what the fuck, existential?
I want to get your thoughts, Carlos, on this as well. But I want to show you guys his response because I actually didn't watch that much more of the clip because I saw that I was like, oh my Jesus fucking Christ. You guys see how they try to get liberals are here to gaslight the shit out of the working class. And you guys see how it's even more egregious where she was like, yeah, I'm happy. I make a living wage. Zerlina Maxwell, you're worth $5 million. You guys see how she's trying to pretend that she's one of us? Yeah, it's a good thing. I'm glad I make a living wage. I'm doing well. You're a millionaire for one. Secondly, she was like, well, the thing that's most important to me as a black woman is getting to work safe. Hey, Zelina, you want to know what's killing our people? The police.
I gotta unmute. I'm sorry, I can't help.
I know you itching to chime in. I would love to hear your thoughts.
No, because that's a great point. I hope my sound is okay. Someone said that it sounds like I'm farting, which I'm not, people. So just know that I have a fan here because it's like 90 degrees in Minneapolis and it sucks. Anyway, the point being that that's a key moment, right? I don't want to get shot, but she doesn't clarify by who. So she's playing both sides rhetorically. I don't want to be shot by crime or the police. So in my mind, those are two important cultural issues. It's like bullshit. Crime is a consequence of a poorly organized social structure that leads people into crime, forces people into crime if they're not just like naturally gravitated. Some people do, but at the end of the day, if people are taken care of materially, usually they don't gravitate towards at least material crime in terms of theft, right? Or shooting other human beings. And she talks about it on the way to work. Right? So she's put it in the context of like, I'm going to work. I don't want to get shot on my way to work because so many people get shot on their way to work. That's the way mass shootings happen in the U.S. on freeways while people are on their way to work. We know that's not true. They happen at specific locations, like Mall of America yesterday, or Uvalde and school shootings and things of that nature. So. I just wanted to highlight that this is a great example of using identity politics and the culture wars to override class issues. They don't want to talk about class, even though they use it and they talk about the single mom. Well, the single mom gives a shit about inflation and it's not a privilege. The single mom gives a shit about gas prices and it's not a privilege. The single mom cannot afford to donate money to the Ukrainian war out of her pocket, and that's not a fucking privilege. That's a class issue. And if she's a black single mom, she's going to have an even harder time accessing some kind of security net. And that's what you should be talking about. That's what people mean by when they say it's the economy, stupid. It's not these other culture wars. It's not that they're not important, but they're always going to be connected to questions of economics and class, because at the end of the day, people are interested in surviving in order to take care of other issues, and you cannot survive if you're not eating or have adequate shelter. So it's this bullshit rhetoric of playing both sides. Oh, we want to take care of single moms, but people are focusing too much on that kind of stuff, when in reality we need to pay attention to, I don't want to get shot on my way to work. I mean, we're talking about basically that's the white female suburban defense for funding the police. And here we have a black woman on mainstream media making the same argument, parroting basically a Karen fucking argument. It is bullshit.
The gaslighting is intense because this is why we do what we do on RBN. I'm here to explain to you guys why we oppose the Democratic Party, not just because they don't do enough for us. It's because the violence they wage, the LAPD, the NYPD, these are democratic institutions ran by the Democratic Party, I mean. Right? Minnesota, Baltimore Police Department. These are democratic operations that wage violence against our communities. It's Joe Biden that spans DHS. Right?
New York City, your favorite mayor.
And you guys see Zerlina's job is to be the black woman to give credibility to the Democratic Party. That's why I told you guys, when you see a black person on MSNBC or CNN, these are the most dangerous class traders that you will ever see. Well, I would say class warriors because they're fighting on behalf of the class. To say that instead, they are the most brutal class warriors on behalf of the rich. Now, just to give you guys a little background to Zerlina Maxwell, like she was obviously a big Hillary Clinton stan, but I don't know if you guys remember this. But this is the MSNBC clip where this guest, she said that Bernie Sanders make her skin crawl. Hold on, I guess I'll play the audio. I just Googled it just to find it real quick. And you see Zelina is there too. And Zelina was one of those people that was pushing the Bernie bro narrative, that was smearing all Bernie Sanders supporters as sexist, right? And I want you guys to see this unhinged quick. It's a quick clip. And this is who Zelina pals around with. Check this out.
Somewhat moderate Democrat. Bernie Sanders makes my skin crawl, and I can't even identify for you what exactly it is, but I see him as sort of a not pro-woman candidate. And so having the two of them there, like, I don't understand young women who support him, and I'm hoping that.
You guys see that? Not a long clip, but you guys see that's Zelina Maxwell, just not along. She's always been extremely class loyal to the ruling class. So let's watch the clip. I want you to play that part one more time, and then I'm gonna play the answer of the Asian guest, whose job is also to be the Asian representation that is supposed to make the Democratic Party look good to us. You guys see the setup of this interview? They're two class loyal minorities that is fighting on behalf of the ruling class that's supposed to be our representation. So let's play it one more time. Let's get our final thoughts, and then I think I got one more topic before we wrap up. So hopefully you're doing well on time. Let's play this part one more time.
About Kurt, one of the things that you said there that I really think is important is the fact that, you know, inflation, it's almost a privilege to care about inflation as your number one issue. The same is true of gas prices, or even the idea that it's the economy stupid. I always found that analysis lacking, because as a Black person, I don't want to get killed on the way to my job. So I'm glad I have a job. I'm glad I make a living wage. But if I can't be alive, then what does that other stuff matter? I mean, speak to the idea that some of this stuff is existential in the minds of the Democratic base in a way that it's maybe not for the middle of the country, the so-called middle, or even more conservative-leaning voters.
Yeah, listen, if you just lost your house because of a flood in Kentucky, if you just lost your livelihood because it burnt down in a wildfire, if you just lost your life because you are the wrong color and you were pulled over somewhere, inflation doesn't really matter to you or to your loved ones. There are much broader things going on right now in this country that affect so many demographics, that the dollars to cents case that has been made time and again about, you know, like you said, it's the economy stupid. There's a blind spot there, and you'll notice that the majority of people who make that statement are generally white.
Sorry, I'm done. What? Let me. You guys see the class loyalty on that they show here, that they want to shoo away kitchen and table issues, despite being 13% of the population. Black people are 40% of the homeless population. Despite we have the most medical debt. What do you guys think is harming our communities the most, other than state violence, which your party supports? You got state violence, you got an economic war. And then she's trying to pretend like, well, if you lose your home due to a flood, well, how is that bad? But lose your home because you can't afford rent? That's okay? Carlos, do you want to chime in? I feel like I know you chime in a bit.
Well, I just can't believe the contradictions that they engage in. And they literally are talking to an audience that I feel they have no respect for intellectually. They know they're just they're talking to a herd that's ready to just follow whatever they say. So two things that struck me. She makes a living wage, right? Fuck you do. I want to make that living wage. Whatever you make living wage.
She tried gaslight the viewers to think that she's like her. And then even the idea that she's in danger. She got a security detail.
Exactly. So the fact that she talks about an existential threat. Look, Black people need to worry about our lives because we're being killed. It's like, no one's arguing against that. But if that's the case, then why do you keep funding the fucking police that are killing you?
Yes.
Why don't you redistribute those billions of dollars into community safety programs that will help those people that usually get killed and have that existential threat, because I doubt you actually live it, but I understand what you're talking about. And the police are not the solution to that existential threat. They are the cause. They are the reason black and brown bodies walk around feeling like their lives are always under threat by some kind of law enforcement. So at the end of the day, they're arguing against themselves. And they don't realize it, because all they want to say is like, don't worry about money and your material conditions of how you survive on a daily basis by eating and finding shelter. Worry about these other big issues that might impact your life, like, you know, being shot by the police. And it's like, don't you see the fucking connection? Police get funding. Give us that funding so we can have better lives, so we don't have to worry about some of this other shit that you say is a privilege, like gas prices and rent and food. It's just it's such a weak argument that it's kind of hard to sit through, because it's complete bullshit.
Yeah, so you guys see the sacrifice I make for you guys to make a good segment. So I think we said everything we need. So the reason I want to do this segment, because I want you guys to know this rhetoric is going to escalate as the economy is going to continue to get worse. I don't give a fuck about these capitalists, man. I don't care if they say we're in a recession, we're not in a recession. I know class war when I see it. Whether they say we're in a recession or not, the working class is being squeezed out by the billionaire class, regardless.